Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, because my camera somehow is not working, so they're working on it. Uh, Thank you very much for the introductions. And uh, what I had to say was that I've been watching this conference since afternoon, and some really excellent speakers and excellent things that even I have learned today. And also my compliments to the chairman of the committee, overseas committee. She picked a date when Pakistan is playing New Zealand, the final of the one-day match. And it's very interesting. So anyway, we'll move on with our deliberations. The topic that we have today is insights on people's skill development during an economic downturn. And we have heard since afternoon people talking about the crisis that our small blue dot is going through. And so for the past 3 years, which is the pandemic that we saw, and the war that is going on, and the recessions and the inflations and the climate related disasters that Pakistan saw, 30 million people being displaced and affected, which is equal to the population of Canada. Now, unfortunately, during an economic crisis, manpower cost is the first in line to the chopping block. And the manpower development cost is a total no-go area. But again, the intelligent ones, they see this differently, and they see an opportunity to retrain the manpower to overcome the crisis by capacity building and improving productivity, as we heard Aurangzeb also talking about this. Now, the good thing is that we are lucky that we have a panel which is extremely diverse. We have Noman Ali in London, we have Asher in the Middle East, we have Chamila in Sri Lanka, and we have Sohail in the North America, which is Canada and the USA. Now, I'll have just one question, two questions. For the first one, which will have to be answered by all the four panelists, and you have 5 minutes each for that. And the question is that in the current economic environment, how is people development being handled or addressed in your part of the world? I'll start with Noman, who's based in London. Noman, your perspective on that.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, it's a pleasure to be in this convention, and it's a really good, important topic which we are talking about right now. So, I mean, as we discussed, there have been significant headwinds and impact on people over the last 3 years, starting with COVID, then the impact of the recession, the geopolitical crisis we have, and then more recently, the cost of living challenges which we are facing, especially in Europe and the UK. So on the people development agenda in such times, I would like to highlight 5 key things. One is the future ways of working. Secondly, inclusion and diversity. Thirdly, learning and skills development. Then listening to our colleagues. And lastly, well-being. So if we start with the future ways of working, meaning how we should work to meet new demands, we have seen that we had to adapt at pace due to the impact of COVID-19. This offered all of us the opportunity to rethink how we should work, considering what worked well during the pandemic and the challenges they faced. So firms need to consider their future ways of working strategy and provide a framework to implement hybrid working principles and adopt new technologies and working practices to enhance productivity and well-being. Secondly, on inclusion, it is important to value diversity of thought and build an inclusive environment that reflects our communities. The DNI agenda has gained importance in the UK, and various DNI targets are also being introduced in the UK. Thirdly, the learnings and skills development is a quite an important part of the people agenda. Focus should be on building a dynamic and inclusive culture where colleagues can develop their skills and experiences that help them fulfill their potential. Listening to colleagues is also quite important. Some surveys of employees and customers will really help us to understand that. And at the end of, we need to put our employees at the center of our decision making. If things go wrong, we should take action to take timely in a timely manner. Lastly, well-being. Well-being programs are a key enabler of people strategies, especially as we move towards a more hybrid way of working. We all see the importance of mental health, and that is also a key agenda on the people front as well. That was all from my side. Thank you.
Okay, so Asher, you're next.
Sure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity here. Look, there is no doubt that these are difficult times with a global recession around the corner. So the doom and gloom stories that we've been hearing all day today, whether we like it or not, it is quite true, and they are here to stay. So I echo what all the other earlier speakers have said on this subject. But this is where the twist is. For most Middle Eastern nations, they seem to be immune to the difficult times. I, in my short talk, will focus mostly on Saudi Arabia, given that's been my primary domicile for over 2 decades now. They were one of the first ones to open up during COVID, and they've been able to subsidize utilities and staples for their nationals with ease, despite skyrocketing inflation. Their economy, I think, is mega strong. Their currency is super stable. They are running budgets in the black, not in the red. Their oil revenue, their dependency on oil revenue, that they're weaning off that is declining. Their sovereign wealth fund is flush with cash, with liquidity, and they're flexing their muscles globally. Even the regional geopolitical temperature is very much under control. Even Ronaldo is sitting in Riyadh. So the list goes on. So then the question is, what is it that they are doing on the people development front? And yeah, well, tons of interesting things, and I'll take a stab at a few of those. Firstly, the pool and the quality of talent of Saudi nationals joining the workforce has increased dramatically in the past decade. Saudi women are now part of that game changer that is in play. And Sone pe Suhaga, these Saudi millennials are Western educated who decided to return to the motherland to serve. This was mostly possible through that King Abdullah Higher Education Scholarship Initiative. So you see, all it takes is one good policy decision and then sticking with it. But other than the Saudi nationals, there is a massive demand for specialist, subject matter expert expats. They're in high demand. And why is that so? Because of all the mega and the giga projects that are being rolled out. The Sovereign Wealth Fund, PIF, is kind of like a market maker. So it is not the private sector, and it's also not a traditional public sector employer. What they are doing is they are rolling out companies almost on a weekly basis, and through the PPP model, taking those companies from an idea or a concept or just the vision or just the business plan, they're taking it all the way to listing or an IPO. And I think the attendees on this call would be pleased to hear that many of our ICAP brethren, they are the backbone of so many of these ventures. Another thing, previously, foreign specialist recruitment firms were not, they couldn't establish base in Saudi. That restriction is no longer in place. So multinationals are now being offered crazy incentives, interesting incentives, to set up their regional headquarters in Saudi. So the demand for talent is there. And from a people development aspect, the good news is that a lot of it is getting institutionalized. Previously, you might have needed a Vasta to get a job. Well, it's still true to some extent even today, but the barriers to entry are generally getting lowered for talented manpower. One last point on people development, and just to kind of balance off things for what is actually missing in the Middle East. What I'm seeing is Saudi employers are kind of still hesitant to embrace some aspects of modern work culture that we have spoken about today on the call, such as hybrid or remote working. But I think it's just a matter of time that this resistance will have to fall sideways, hopefully once they see the value in it. To conclude, okay, so look, Saudi is not on a different planet. They are going through good times. These are good times for them, but the challenges remain. On the people front, one of the challenges on the people front that I can think of is because of the global job losses in the rest of the world, and simultaneously the opening up of the kingdom has meant there's a tremendous amount of inbound people pressure. So regulators and companies in Saudi are kind of still trying to figure out how to balance this inbound people pressure without it penetrating their bubble of prosperity, I would say. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
So Ashad, do you really, I mean, is it because they're flushed with cash that they have a different environment altogether?
They were always flush with cash. They've run budgetary surplus. Yaqub Saab, you have served in the Middle East. I have served in the Middle East. We have seen that money was not necessarily an issue. It is the change in the mindset, the perspective, opening up the kingdom, opening it up to business, welcoming FDI. That is the game changer.
Okay, interesting. So we go to the opposite side now. Where's Chamila? I can't see Chamila.
I'm still there.
Okay, come in, please.
Yeah. So first of all, let me thank and congratulate ICAP and my close friend Hina Osmani, the council member of ICAP, for organizing this session. Wonderful topic. So from a Asian perspective or from a Sri Lanka perspective, I think all of us have gone through the economic downturn. It's not a strange experience for any of us, but for us in Sri Lanka, it was multiple of impacts because of the political context that we were in, the instability and the social unrest and insolvency we had to declare ourselves. Foreign currency crisis, you name it, you have everything here in Sri Lanka, and it was a nightmare for all of us. So with all of these, obviously, there is a huge impact on the employers and employees in the country. And as we all know, one thing that we focus on in the PNL in a downturn is how do you cut down on your L&D expenses, which is not an exception for Sri Lankan companies as well. And this reminds me, being an accountant, this small story where the accountant went and asked the MD of the company, these people are leaving the organization. Why are you investing on training and developing these people? And the answer from the MD was another question. What if they don't leave?
Yeah.
So this actually brings to where we are in. If you don't invest in your people because it's economic downturn, you will not be able to face the future because the requirement, the skill set that you need for the future is totally different once you come out from the economic downturn. So that is why it is clearly important for you to invest in skill development of your employees. So some of the areas that we've actually looked into from a Sri Lankan context is that we immediately start embracing technology, online platforms, like any other country, where, the first step for us to invest and train people in almost all the organization was technology. And then I would say second area that Sri Lanka specifically look at is some of the skills required for you to sustain the organization and face the crisis that you are in. This requires in terms of your job role and the environment that you're in, because if you if you experience this, there isn't a time that we have managed people in distance. This would be the first time that any of us as people managers, as leaders, have managed people at a distance. So it's a different skill set that is required, which most of the organization train their people, train their managers, train their leaders to how do you manage your people at a difficult time in a distance. So that was one skill set that was focused on. And then specifically in terms of the softer skills in a crisis is something like empathy, flexibility. For Sri Lanka, which was really badly needed because we went through a power crisis. We had a transport issue because we didn't have fuel to operate the transportation. So either you can work from home, you can't come to the office. There is a lot of flexibility and empathy on your employees, which is required. And that was something actually, it is amazing that how companies invested on training their people, even at a lower level, in getting these skills developed in their employees. And the last thing that I want to touch upon is how do you got your people to unlearn to relearn? Because the World Economic Forum recently released the report says 50% of us who are in the employment would require relearning by 2025. So most of the companies, because of the situation we are in, I'll just give one example, who are in sales and marketing, didn't have opportunity because of the crisis to go in. But those employees were reskilled into finance and HR skills so that the main part of the organization operations could be still run even without they didn't have. And another example would be people who are in the manufacturing process, who are operating machineries. Because of the crisis, you couldn't have production. So they were deployed in many of the clerical work in the organization. And the last point, was the entrepreneurial skills that we developed to support some of the crises that we had in terms of liquid petroleum and the electricity power cuts. There were a lot of in-house gas development, liquid gas development for cooking purposes. There were rechargeable batteries, rechargeable electrical bulbs, which came out because of these entrepreneurial skill development that took place. So I'll take a stab at it and we'll come back for the discussions on the next question. Over to you, Jakob.
Yeah, thank you. That was really interesting. And it's really tough, the period that Sri Lanka went through. We were all watching and praying that you get past this thing. But anyway, I'm sure to a reasonable extent, it's behind Sri Lanka now. So let's move on to Sohail. Sohail, you are in the first world. I'm sure you have a totally different story to tell.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jakob. Thank you, ICAP and Khurshid, for having me on the panel. It is an honor and pleasure for me to be here. So as you know, I'm in a different part of the world, in North America, and this session started very early morning for us, almost about 5 a.m. And I was debating in the morning that whether I should attend it from the office or from home. And I finally decided to come to the office very early because I had a in-person meeting following up after this session. So when I was leaving from the home, my wife asked me that when you go out from driveway, just check how much snow is there and let me know so that I can prepare myself. So that's a glimpse on North American life. But anyway, let me begin. I will give you a different perspective. I'm a practicing CA here in North America with offices in US and Canada, as well as the Middle East. So let me begin by providing you an insight into what we have experienced in the past few years in the Canadian market or the North American market specifically from a people perspective and how various organizations are coping with these challenges. So, as always is the case, economic crisis, during economic crisis, some businesses thrive while others suffer. And in our case, the example could be healthcare related businesses, educational institutions, rideshare and delivery businesses. They have done remarkably well during the COVID or other disruptions, whereas some businesses like hospitality, travel businesses, they have suffered badly. So that's life. And the public accounting and consulting businesses have been fortunate, and they have generally done well. So a lot of firms here have recorded double-digit growth in their businesses, and that is primarily driven by huge government stimulus coming into economy and higher economic activities resulting from it. Now, from our industry perspective, the single largest challenge that we have been facing in our profession over the past few years is an acute shortage of experienced and skilled auditors and accountants. As a result, there's been a huge pressure on the existing employees and resources to perform well and work extra hours. Now, this has resulted in challenges, many challenges, including mental health issues. And you may have read the tragic news a few months ago that a 27-year-old female staff working for EY Australia died at the office over the weekend. Now, this is serious. This indicates the seriousness of this challenge that we are all facing. And according to a research report, and that I quote, says 87% of Canadian employers report that COVID-19 has affected their employees' health and psychological well-being. And 61% foresee that pandemic affecting their employees in the next 2 to 3 years. So this is an ongoing phenomenon that is going on. Now, many firms have started using, to address this concern, many firms have started using offshore resources. But again, that has its own challenges around the quality of supervision, time zone differences, regulatory requirements. For example, Accounting Oversight Board here in North America, they expect offshore employees to receive a detailed level of supervision and training in addition to having equivalent professional qualification. So those are challenges with that. Now, let me quickly elaborate on how we are coping with these challenges. So first and foremost, we are being very selective and restrictive in accepting new businesses. For example, our firm alone declined new businesses worth a significant dollar value during the last year. And this is totally unprecedented in our business. I've never experienced this in my 30+ year career in public accounting, that where you decline the new business because of lack of capacity. So the other countermeasure is increased use of technology to improve efficiencies. For example, testing of IT applications and control, more use of data analytics in performing various audit procedures, attending virtual inventory counts with the help of technology, including drones. Over the past few years, almost half of the physical inventory counts were performed remotely. So this was unprecedented a few years ago. Reinforcing mentorship programs for our employees and trainees. For example, each of our firm's CPA students goes through a mandatory review every 6 months. It's a detailed review. And then expansion of online training courses versus physical attendance and traveling. Introduction of a hybrid model where people get the flexibility of working from home for a few days a week. This has become a perk now, and one of the few things that employees value most, among others being the corporate culture and job security. Frequent virtual group meetings to ensure well-being of our people and providing a means to virtually meet other colleagues. Introduction of mental health programs, for example, counseling and assisting assisting employees with personal challenges. So those are some sort of the measures that we have taken. And now quickly, I will say, going forward, there's almost a consensus that we will see a recession and a partial reversal of the trend that we've experienced in the past few years. However, the demand for technical skills, as Usher mentioned, it seems to stay here, at least for the next few years. So given this scenario, there will be opportunities for those who will be more competitive in their technology, communication, problem-solving skills, and more adaptable to changes. So that's the message from me.
Yeah, very interesting. I'm on a board of a psychiatric care hospital, and we have seen a 30 to 40% increase in footfall post-pandemic. It's getting very difficult to cope with the number of patients that are coming in. And we get a lot of inputs from organizations where they want us to come and deliver lectures. So our doctors go there and help them out. So anyway, that's a very interesting information that all of you have given. So we move on to our second segment. And the second question, if you can see on the screen, is what are those specific skills that need to be developed or acquired going forward? What are the top 3 skills on your list? So you again have 5 minutes each, so deliberate on it at ease. And I've slightly changed the sequence now. Now I want Jamila to come first, and then we will have Sohail, and then Asher, and then Noman.
It's good, Yaqub. Sorry, it's good, Yaqub, that you've given me a break. Otherwise, I was thinking I will continue.
So anyway, so Jamila, let's hear you out. What are those specific skills that need to be developed or acquired going forward?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what was the requirement for the change, but I'm happy to take that on. Yaqub, just wanted to quote the well-known author, the author of the book Future Shock, Alvin Toffler. He said the illiterate will not be the person who cannot read, but the one who doesn't know how to learn. So this actually sets the grounds to say that your learning, your skill development would be something that would require for your life time, and it needs to be continued. So what you have acquired so far will not take you to next stages in your life if you don't upskill yourself. So in my view, I identified 3 skills. First one is the cognitive skill, broadly, which means your ability to understand complex ideas and situations and adapt effectively to those situations and to the environment, and to learn from your experience, reasoning, and being creative, and also critically thinking, and focus more on the problem solving. So it's a combination of skills that we have been talking about, which has been there. But if I put all of those together, I would first consider that as one skill, which is the cognitive skill. The second one I would take onto the list would be social and emotional skills, which is an ability of an individual to navigate the interpersonal and social situations effectively. This means your leadership skills, your team working ability, your collaboration, because it's a time for you to collaborate. You cannot be competing at a time when there is a crisis, which you don't know at what time it would come up. So it's one of the key skill that would come under the social and emotional skills, and empathy and emotional intelligence. We've been talking about emotional intelligence for for a couple of decades now, but I think this was a time that it has actually been practiced and been realized by many of the people. And the third in my list, the last, is the self-management skill, which was handy for most of us who have been working specifically at distance, working from home, to have the growth mindset, which help you to actively learn by yourself, being resilient, stress tolerance, and being flexible in the situation that you have to face in, specifically in the times that has been very difficult for us. And why I put all these things together, it's not necessarily that we need to look at the time that we are currently going through, the difficulties that we are facing now, and how would I come back to the new norm that is in the present, but the change that would come in the future, which would be totally different to what I have been in the past and what I'm in the present. So I do believe these, at a broad level, these are the three top skills that I would recognize that any individual would require for the future.
Yeah, excellent. Very, very good input, Chamila. I hope our friends at ICAP are capturing all this to recap at the end of the conference. And I'm sure a gentleman by the name of Asad Firoz has been given this responsibility. So that's excellent, Chamila. Sohail,
Sure.
after the short break. Yeah.
Sure. So we are having break now, or
No.
Oh,
You
okay.
said you were happy with the short break, so I'm saying
Sure,
enough of the short break.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my three skills are totally different from Chamila's. So I think your idea of diversity is working.
Yeah. Someone was worried that what happens if there is a repetition. So I cleared that problem.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's totally working.
Yeah.
But thank you once again. I will answer this question based on my experience here in Canada, in meeting with and guiding many CAs from Pakistan who migrate to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So the two biggest challenges always are, for many years, is the lack of Canadian experience and Canadian qualifications when any newcomer comes to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So with the emergence of remote working opportunities and online courses that are being offered by various institutions here, I think these challenges over the period of time are being overcome. So I would just say that those who are planning to migrate to Canada, just be mindful of this and make themselves ready for these challenges before they land in Canada. Beside these challenges, in terms of the top three skills, I was just thinking about it last night. And again, technology comes to the mind first and foremost. Technology is changing at a very rapid pace. You may have heard about a recent release, I think last month or so, something called ChatGPT, a new AI tool that can tell stories and write code. It has the potential to take over certain roles traditionally held by humans, such as copywriting, answering customer service inquiries, writing reports, creating documents. So as AI continues to improve, more and more current routine and repetitive jobs will be threatened by automation. But AI presents opportunities as well and create new jobs and the different organizations. So it is up to us to see where things are going and find our niche opportunities there. Now, staying up to date with the latest technology is important in future-proofing our career. Continuously learn and familiarize yourself with the latest technology. Examples are AI, RPA, data analytics, the other items that we've talked about, in addition to cybersecurity, which is a hot button issues in these times, auditing and valuation of digital assets. These are certain areas where there's a very dearth of expertise and knowledge, and those are the areas of opportunities in our mind. A great example or a great opportunity here is the ICAP's data analytics course that's happening currently, or programming, dashboard, predictive modeling, and data mining, etc., that Khurshid referred to or alluded to earlier. So these are the real opportunities for those who want to future-proof themselves. So technology being the first. The second in my mind is strong communication skills, being articulate and direct. This is the most fundamental people skill because it encompasses your persona and ability to get along with other colleagues. Being articulate is a very important people skill in today's workplace when time is at a premium and technology requires constant communication. So I would say that two aspects to it, being direct and articulate, this is something that we learned when we come to North American market from our countries, and active listening as well, because we tend to hear people saying with a view to answer immediately, but I think we really need to get into the practice of our habit of listening carefully before we start answering, because it is really helpful if you do that. And remember, Allah gave us 2 ears and 1 tongue for a reason, right? So we have to just try and practice that a lot. And the last in my mind is adaptability, because the ability to adapt to new situations is a valuable skill, especially in a troubled economy. Being comfortable in unfamiliar environments and learning to succeed while facing new challenges is the key to being adaptable. Take time to understand other roles and responsibilities and become comfortable completing tasks that not usually in your scope of work. Pivoting your work and business models towards opportunities presented by the crisis is the key to success. And that's all from my side.
Excellent, Sohail, especially when you rang a bell with me when you talked about Chat GPT. Just 2 days ago, it was on a WhatsApp group, and a friend of mine, he just typed over there friendship, and it gave an amazing piece of art, which then we circulated amongst many of the friends group, that what is exactly a good friend. And he said it just came out. I just typed friendship and it gave me a full paragraph on it. So amazing thing. And then AI, again, your Raptors basketball champs in Canada, they won the tournament using AI. And this was, I learned when I visited a friend of mine in IBM in Toronto, who heads the AI initiative over there in IBM. And he explained to me how, the basketball team is using AI. So lots of interesting things going on in the world. So Noman, Ashar, it's your turn now. So let's hear you out.
Yeah, I don't envy Noman because all the good skills have already been taken. Not much left for me. Jamila and Suhail, you have already put some of the ones that I was going to talk about. So I'll have to.
Noman will surprise us. Don't worry.
Hopefully so. So let me take a stab at this way. That let me start by giving everybody on the call. We have more than 200 participants. Let me give you an assignment up front. Try and recollect tomorrow what I'm going to say in the next couple of minutes. If you can, then you already have a skill that is going to be so much in demand. It's already in demand, but it's going to be so much in demand in the future. That is the ability to listen, to comprehend, and retain. So he'll kind of took a stab at that. But yes, if we can listen, comprehend, and retain. The problem is, given our shrinking attention span and all these automated and monotonous work routines, the biggest skill gap seems to be as simple as being able to focus or concentrate. I was going to talk about empathy and emotional intelligence, but Jamila, you've already addressed that, so I'm not going to take too much time on that. I was obviously going to talk about soft skills, how essential they are, communication, leadership, creativity. So I have to scratch those off the list as well. Suhail has already addressed that. So then what is left for me is two things which are close to my heart. I would want to talk about. These skills are important, and they bear repetition even if they've been spoken of. One is digital literacy. Given that the only businesses that will survive in the future are those that are tech enabled, for us finance professionals, tech skills are absolutely essential. Now, by tech skills, I don't mean that we become coders or software developers. This is more about having a short learning curve to embracing whatever new tech comes our way in our line of work. So if you have to grapple with AI or Web3 or any new ERP system or blockchain, there will be a very short lead time given to us by our employers or organizations to learn what it means and then plug it into our workflow from an accounting or finance perspective. So basically what that means is our ability to embrace and learn ASAP whatever new tech is thrown our way, find its use case, deploy it, embrace it, make sure it doesn't bleed the organization. I know it's all easier said than done, but those of us who can do it, people like me who started out as auditors, but then conquered the tech barriers of ERP systems. I think I've spoken enough on the ERP side. There's another aspect within the digital literacy space, which is taking traditional businesses from brick and mortar to the cloud. That is a lasting skill with an edge that will keep you relevant. The only other skill that I want to talk about, and while Jamila did mention that, is self-management. Not people management, but self-management. Why? Because we are already working out of our homes as a physical team of one person. So self-management is a skill that employers will desperately seek in employees, both from an admin or an operational aspect, or even from a emotional or behavioral aspect. And with all this hybrid and remote working going mainstream, self-management is the finest way to demonstrate to an employer a skill that they probably don't even know, but they will desperately need from their employees going forward. Of course, time management, stress management, they all come within the umbrella of self-management. Look, it's a fascinating topic, but I think ICAP will have to invite me again if they really want me to drill more deeper into this mother of all skills for the future. Yeah, so to round it off, if you can remember all the skills that I or Suhail or Jamila rattled through in the past couple of minutes, by this time tomorrow, if you can remember any or most of those, you already are somewhat future-proof.
Excellent, Ashar, as always.
You're very kind, thank you.
No, I don't think an ICAP conference is complete without you being there. And I know this for the past 12 years now.
Yes, and you have been kind enough to invite me many times, yes.
Anyway, so good inputs. Now, the reason I kept Numan at the end was because he has a special area that he's working on, which is the ESG areas. And I'm sure he's going to cover that in detail also. So, Numan, it's your turn now.
Sure. So from a sustainability or ESG perspective, I guess the first question is this: why is this topic important? It is important because it's the right thing to do to be a responsible corporate citizen. Secondly, we also see the real impact, as we saw personally with the flooding we saw in Pakistan, sadly. And thirdly, sustainability has a direct, significant impact on business models going forward globally. And lastly, this topic is what is being expected from our external stakeholders, including our shareholders, customers, employees. All are very keen on this new topic. So, I mean, overall, we have seen that the whole ESG agenda has gained significant momentum over the last 18 months or so. At the global level, there have been significant activities, and companies and corporates are committing to various net zero targets. So keeping in mind this new topic, I guess the three things which I wanted to focus on or highlight from a skills perspective are firstly, communication and influencing, because this is a topic which needs to be clearly articulated to the market, to stakeholders, to our employees, and you also need to influence that why is this topic important. Secondly, integrity. If you're talking about sustainability or ESG, then you need to be transparent and you need to be honest and you need to lead the way from the front and you need to live those values. So this cannot be a topic where you can have double standards. So integrity is core to sustainability in ESG. Thirdly, I'll squeeze in two into this category: change management and technical aspect as well. So from a change management, given this is new topic, sustainability isn't the topic of the past where we were focusing on donations or philanthropy. Sustainability now, with climate being the core and the social aspects, is going to have significant impact on organizations going forward. So we need to see how we embed sustainability and ESG into our target operating model, into our organization, even from a finance perspective, how it impacts our planning processes, our disclosures, our stress testing. So we need to see how we embed that into an organization, and hence change management is important. And the very last one is technical. And this is an opportunity for us as chartered accountants to really embrace and get involved in this topic. We see the IFRS Foundation setting up the ISSB. They're coming up with disclosure standards. There are certain very complex and complicated topics within climate, especially on disclosures, but some of the more technical topics such as financed emissions, which impacts banks. So it is a technical topic because we need to see the real impact from a science perspective. Hence, it requires a bit more technical know-how on it as well. So that is all I had to say on ESG.
Yeah, excellent, Noman. Because I remember giving a presentation on ESG in Sri Lanka, Jamila, in I think 2011 or 12. And we've been discussing ESG since that time. But now, even at the IFAC board, we have a lot of experts coming in and making these presentations. So IFAC is also extremely serious on advocating this and taking this forward. It's now up to the regulators, I think, who should be really pursuing this. Like the stock exchange should be, forcing the companies to now get towards the ESG related area. And I'm sure you're doing a lot of good work with HSBC in London on this topic. So let's check if there are any questions. I know one that came in on data analytics and data sciences. Chamila, were you trying to type an answer over there, or you want to?
I was actually typing the answer and I sent it. I don't know, for some technical reason it couldn't move on to the respondent. But
just say a few words on that, so the Mr. Faisal Ali Khan is satisfied that he got an answer.
Sure. So yes, I think it's one of the key skill that is important for us as accountants who are in the accounting profession. And I personally have experienced this in my current role as well, working with different global organizations across the world, across different regions. What happens is the BAU, the business as usual, the routine task of an accountant is more or less getting automated, and it can be an task that be performed without an accountant presence. But these skills, which is being supported by the skill of an accountant, is something that is very crucial, value adding to an organization in decision making. So there are a lot of techniques, tools that is being available. If you can get hold of those and spend some time learning it, that would be an added advantage to your career and to add value to your respective organizations as well.
Noman, there's one for you. I think it's a typo. How ESG will impact the stress testing? Can you elaborate further?
So basically within ESG, the first E is relating to environment, climate, and what is happening with the last 2 years or so. as you know, organizations do stress testing, especially in the banking sector, of various impacts. Now, for the last 12 months or so, there are requirements to do climate related stress testing. So from a climate perspective, there are two types of impact. One is like a physical risk impact, and one is the transition risk impact. So those risk impacts of these two categories are basically assessed by organization, banks, and that is how stress testing is impacted by climate.
Okay. Okay, there's one question by our friend Mr. Kazi from Lahore, and he's a big proponent of the Toastmasters Club. So, Sohail, I believe you have been also associated with that. Now, you see, one of the things that I do in the IFAC board, we have a lot of people from different countries, like 22 different countries are sitting on the board. And during coffee breaks and lunch breaks, I keep asking them, what are the key issues that you face in your country with the professional accountants? And the one common thing which runs all across the world is the presentation and communication skills. They have a problem everywhere. So Pakistan should relax. We are not the only ones. And even Sri Lanka or anybody else, it's a common pandemic issue as far as this thing is concerned. But ICAP has done good in adopting the Toastmasters Club, which helps people to come and hone their skills and improve their skills in public speaking. And it removes all the inhibitions and the because there's an counter also sitting in that particular forum. So Sohail, let's hear your experience on that, and how would you suggest the accounting profession to adopt this and use this?
So I think there are a number of ways this can be handled, Yaqub. In my experience, I've seen in Canada, people come from many countries, and obviously they need this skill, and they work on this. There are certain accent training courses. There are certain written communication courses. I remember my times when I moved from Middle East to North America about 20 years ago. And I was with Ernst & Young in the Middle East, and I moved to Ernst & Young in Toronto. And one thing they did in my first few weeks was a public speaking a training course. It was a full 2 or 3 day training course that happened for all those experienced recruits from other countries. And in that course, the whole crux was, they make you speak, they make you write certain things. And then when you're speaking, they record you, and then they present it to you and they critique, and then they tell you that, change this, change that. And when you're writing, they give you feedback in writing. So it's a question of getting the right resources, either from whichever organization you can get. And in Canada, there are lots of those type of organizations available that help new immigrants. And I'm sure that for CA Pakistan, it will not be too difficult to identify these type of resources and sharing it with the prospective CCAs and CAs to help themselves. So at the end of the day, it's combination of first and foremost, we need to realize that this is something that needs to be done. So that's the first step. Once you've realized that, then there are various means available to handle that. And I'm sure that the one that you mentioned is also one of them. But yeah, so my experience is varied in this area, Yaqub.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on this? We just have 2 or 3 minutes left.
Yaqub just wanted to add something on this point, because this is something that I handle on the training and development part for the CAs.
Okay.
So when it comes to communication, Toastmaster point, most of the time the perception is that you need to know English. I would say, English is important because it's an international language which you can, communicate with most parts of the world, but it's more or less about your ability to articulate your ideas to the audience that you are dealing with, which is what is lacking at the moment in most of the people that I have come across. They don't understand the audience. They're not trying to, fix it to the audience that they could understand what they're trying to communicate. For example, if you take an accountant who's going and explaining, to a HR person about finance, he's talking about his term, which is not something an HR person could understand. So how do you communicate? How do you articulate the point to the audience in their own understanding is what is important in terms of communication and
Exactly.
Toastmaster information.
And the way I put it usually is that this is one thing which will transport many of our fellow accountants from the back office to the boardroom because of the skills that they possess. So with that, I think I'd like to thank all four of you, making it very, very interesting. And a lot of points that people have mentioned, we could even form a book. So thank you, ICAP, for allowing us to have a go at it. And back to the studios.